Hi, I'm AJ and this is the full tutorial of me making the crochet bags. So these crochet bags are really fun and not actually that difficult to make at all. And to show you an example, here's one I made earlier. So this is basically a crochet bag with shades of blue and red and yellow, and I made it for my friend who really likes Formula One and he's a massive fan of Red Bull racing, so I thought let's go with those colour schemes. The bag I'm going to show you how to make today is going to be made with shades of green for another friend of mine who really loves the colour green, and I'm using basically what is 1, 2, 3, 4 shades of green and a white as well as an accent colour. So we've got all these, well, you basically need 5 balls of yarn. Then you will also need a 5mm crochet hook. These crochet hooks are really easy to spot because they're yellow. That's why I use them. They've also got a really comfortable grip, and it's easy to tell the 5mm from, say, a 5.5mm hook. So you want a 5mm hook, and you also want a pair of scissors just to cut off your yarn at the end. So to start off with, you take your first colour. So I'm going to be using this green as my first colour. And you will be making a slip knot so that you can start off a magic ring, which is basically a central ring to hold your crochet together. So you basically take the yarn, you wrap it around your fingers, and you use your crochet hook to pull the yarn through to make your slip knot, like so. Once you've formed the slip knot, just tighten it a little bit, and then you'll be doing 6 single crochets in this slip knot to start off. So pull through for a single chain first of all, then you're going to start. So this will be one. The first one's always the most difficult, but this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's your 6. Just tighten that central chain a bit. And now that you've formed your 6, you want to do a slip knot into that first single crochet. So if you go back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's the 6th one there, that kind of loose one. And what you want to do is you go through both sides of it. Be a bit difficult to start off with, but you'll soon get the hang of it. And then once you're through both, you pull all the way through. So you pull through that crochet, and then you pull through the one on your hook, and that closes it up. So that's your round closed up. And then once that round is closed up, you're going to start the next round. So then you do a single chain, and that's the beginning of the next round. So on the next round, you want to do 2 single crochets into each stitch from the previous round. So 1, 2, like so. And you basically want to end up with 12 single crochets. And that should be 12. So if you just count back, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And you want to do again a slip stitch into that first one just to close up the round. And that's that done. So that's your second round done. Your next round is going to have 18 stitches, and it will go in a 2-1 pattern. So 2 single crochets in one stitch, and then 1 in the next, and then so on until you get to 18. So you start with a single chain, and then you do 2 in that first stitch, and then 1 in the next one, 2, 1 as you go round. And that should be 18. So once you've gone all the way around to form 18, you just slip stitch into that first stitch like before to close the round off. And then once that's done, you're starting your next round. The next round will be 24 single crochets, so you'll do it in a 2-1-1 pattern. So single chain, and then you go all the way around. And 24. And then again, you do a slip stitch in that first stitch just to seal it off. Close up that round. And then you begin on the next round, which will be 30 stitches, so a 2-1-1-1 pattern. So single chain, and then get started. And 30. So that's that round done. So close it off with another slip stitch. And your next round will be 36. So there'd be 2 and then 4 single ones. That's the pattern all the way round. So just single chain. And then you start. And 36. Then we close the round up. Once that's closed up, single chain. And the next round is 42. So 2 and then 5 singles. And 42. And then you do another slip stitch into the first one, all the way through. And then the next one is a round of 48. So 2 and then 6 single ones all the way around. So single chain and then get crocheting. And 48. So then close up the round, slip stitch all the way through, and that was your 8th round. So the next round is round 9, and you will be doing 2 in 1 and then single ones in the next 7. So form a single chain, and you're going round till you get to 54. And 54. So a slip stitch in that first stitch, and you will do your next row. So your next row will be a row up to 60, and this is the last increasing row we're going to make. So it will be 2 in one and then 8 single ones. So you start obviously with your single chain, and then you get crochet. And 60, and then a single crochet into there, single chain or slip stitch, and that is your base done. So you basically have your base done right there. Doesn't matter if it looks a bit twirly like mine does. As long as you have the correct number of stitches, it will be fine and it will hold as a very good base. So once you've gone outwards, now you're going upwards. So from here on, your stitching should be 60 all the way around. And you're going to basically do 4 rows of 4 of your colours. So obviously this dark green colour. If you want to switch colours now, you are perfectly capable of doing it, like you know how to. You can do that now, or you can do this same base colour for 4 rows, and then you do your next colours going upwards. And you're basically going to do 4 colours. So first I'm going to continue with this colour, and I'm going to single chain and then just go 1 all the way around. And then you've got that there. So then you just close up the row with a single crochet, and you basically just keep going. So single chain and round again. and then a slip stitch into that first one, one, two, and then start on the next row. And that's the last one. So then you do it again, a slip stitch into the first stitch of the round, and you pull it closed, and that was your third. So now you're going to do a fourth one, and this is going to be the final one for this colour. So single chain, and off we go. The last stitch, so slip stitch into there and pull it all the way through. Now before we start our next row, we want to add on our next colour. So my next colour is going to be this. Now to add on the next colour, it's really simple. You just put the next colour over the hook, just like you would if it were the same colour, and you pull it through to form that single chain. Tighten the previous colour, and then you just chop that colour off. And that's that colour done with. You can get rid of it, and you've got your next colour on the hook ready to go. And what I usually do is I hold it over the previous round stitches so that I can just stitch it into the colouring. You can, if you want, get a yarn needle and sew it in once you're done, but I find this to be the easiest. So just as you would have done with a single chain, start the next row, and you're just going to go around doing 60 like you've done with the previous few rows, and you're going to do 4 rows of this. And that's that row done. So then just form a single chain. You can see it clearly with the different colours, but form a single chain, well, a slip stitch into that first one, and that's that round done. So you're just going to do that again for the next 3 rounds, and it should be building upwards like this. So single chain and continue. And then once we're done here, we'll do a slip stitch into that first hook, first chain, first crochet, just pull it all the way through. And then we start on the next row, which is row 3. And once you finish that row, just slip stitch into the start of the next, to the beginning of the row, and then single chain, and we start the final row of this colour. And then that's the end of that row. So slip stitch into the first stitch, and then again we're going to be changing colour. I'm going to be changing to this lighter green here. Just put out enough, and then we again attach this colour onto our hook, purl it through to form a single chain, tighten the old one and chop it. We are done with that, and then we have our next colour ready to go. And same as with the previous one, it's 4 rows of 60 single crochets. So start here, And then when you get to the end of the row, as usual, slip stitch to close it all up. And then single chain and we go again. And then at the end of that row, slip stitch into the first one of the next row, of the previous row, well, slip stitch to close it up. And then single chain, and we start on the next one. And there we go. So that's that row ended. As usual, slip stitch into that first crochet, pull all the way through and seal up the row, and then we'll do one more round in this colour. Alright, nearly reaching the end of this round, and done. Slip stitch, and then we go on to our final colour, which is this very nice off-white. White isn't quite so nice, but off-white gives it that little kick, and it's a bit creamier, I find. So, as usual, onto the hook, pull it through like it's a chain one, tighten the old colour, chop it off, and start crocheting. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do 2 rows of the single crochet. And then finish this row. So again, slip stitch into that first one, and then single crochet or single chain, and then we go around again. And then slip stitch into that first stitch, and now this is the row we're going to use to make all the holes to put our string in later. So first we start, you've done the slip stitch into the previous row, so first we start with chain 2, then we count that as part of our first stitch, so chain 2, then we skip 1, and then we single crochet 1, 2, and it's basically like a group of 4 like that. So it goes, for the rest of the row it goes single crochet, chain 2, skip 1, single crochet, single crochet. Because you've been doing 60 in the previous rows, you should come out with 15 holes at the end of this. So. You've got, so once you get to the end, you've got your beginning hole here. So what you do is you do a slip stitch straight into that, and you pull all the way through, and that's that row done. So your last 2 rows will be single chain. What you'll do is for the holes, you'll put 2 single chains in just to hold them open. So single chain, and then 2 single crochets, and then continue with the crocheting, and then you've got another hole, 2, and then once you reach the end, find that first stitch and crochet in and slip stitch into it. So just here to finish off the row, and the next row is going to be the last row, so just single crochet all the way around. So chain 1 and all the way around. Right. And we're just reaching the end of our final round, and there we go. So once you reach the final one, obviously a slip stitch to seal the round closed, and then because you don't need a new colour, you can just chop it off. You can make it pretty long to start off with. Just chop it off, and then what you can do is you'll basically tie it shut to make sure that it doesn't come through again. So you can do that however you want. I like to do a little knot at the top, so I pull it through like so, and then I tie it in like this, and then what I'll do is I'll basically weave this knot into some of the lower rows when I get the chance to. Either that, or I can just cut off that end bit. So yeah, like so. So grab maybe this piece here. Yeah, come through here, grab this, pull it through, and I'll probably do it with one more, just in the white section. And pull it through. And then I will chop the excess out. And that is the basic bag done. So move all that to the side, and you can see that the basic bag is done. It's just ready for the string that will go through the holes. And then any finishing bits like this last bit here, I'll pull it through. So if you just find where the magic ring is, yep, there. So that's the magic ring. So hook through, pull this through, and then this string will be on the inside. It doesn't matter if it's on the inside, but you just secure that magic ring nice and tightly shut, and it's not noticeable on the outside. Right, so main bag is done. So now I'm going to form the string that will be used to tie it. And what I'll do is I basically take my last bit of yarn, so the 5th colour that you've chosen, and then I will basically chain 100. So make sure it's nice and long. and as usual, round to form a slip stitch, go through, and we're just going to chain 100 onto it, so make it a bit tighter and then go. So to chain onto it, you basically just put your hook round, then you pull it through the hole like so. So what you want a chain 100 so that it's long enough to go through the holes on the bag and still be able to form a lot at the end. "98, 99, 100. Now once you get to your 100th one, just pull through like you're going to form a slip stitch, and then make sure the hook stays on so it doesn't actually fall off, and then you just cut, and this will be your finishing knot at the other side. So when I put this away, you want them to be roughly even in length. Trim if you have to. Want them to be roughly even in length, like so. So I'm just going to cut there. And that is your string. You can, if you pull it a bit, it evens out the chains. And then you get your bag again. And what you do is you find where you formed all the slip stitches. It'll form like a stitch line at the back. And you know that those are your back two holes. So you just push them through. And once you've pushed them through, pull them out so that they're even in length, like this. And then you'll basically weave around until this front hole here, and the front hole will be where the two come forward and meet. And yep, they both meet at the front. And once they meet at the front, that's the bag done. So you can just pull it together like so, and that seals the bag. All done. I hope you really enjoyed this video. Obviously you can like the video to show that you appreciate it. Share it with people. If you do make your own bag, I'd love to see it. But yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the tutorial and hope you found it useful. Bye.